Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So this one is half Scottish on the home side, half Welsh on the away side, and both of the breweries involved in this one have featured on the channel a number of times before. Now when it comes to the home brewery, they are definitely best known for their different kinds of sour beers, but they have been producing some big Imperial kind of pastry stouts in recent times which have gone down very well, whereas the away brewery are best known for their different kinds of New England hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs. Now both breweries are regarded as kind of front runners in the beer industry in their home countries, and the beer that we're going to have a look at today is actually a little bit of a special release from the home brewery. It's one that they released to celebrate their 5th anniversary. I have had a little taste of this one before and I know it's very good, but I'm looking forward to doing a proper sit down review of this. So needless to say, very curious to see what this one turns out like when you drink a bit more of it. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for the home side of things then, we're going to stick to Scotland. We're going to go out to Edinburgh and a little bit east of the city to Portobello, and that means that we're going to have a look at yet another beer from the wonderful Vault City Brewery. So this particular beer is called Even Cloudier Double Dry Hopped Hard Lemonade. It comes in at 11% ABV, and I think we have to call this one an Imperial Candy Sour, I guess. And this is brewed in collaboration with the wonderful Pollys Brewing Company from Mold in Flintshire in the very northeast of Wales. So yeah, like I said, this is a beer that Vault City released to celebrate their 5th anniversary, and yeah, it should be quite an interesting one. I did get a little taste of this in the Caledonian Craft Beer Merchant, where I bought this can actually, and I know this is a very good one, but yeah, I couldn't really analyse it and think about it in the same way that I would normally. So really looking forward to trying this one. Let's crack on and see what the beer has in store for us. And definitely cool to see Vault City and Pollys doing a collaboration as well. I think this is the first time I've had a beer that these two have done together, come to think of it. But yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about both the breweries involved in this one before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done, both from Vault City and from Pollys Brewing Company, and we will no doubt add more to both of those lists at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that, you can check out the playlists of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Scottish playlist and the Welsh playlist, since it is dual nationality, and we will continue to add to those whenever we get the opportunity. And check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Vault City first off then, since they are the home brewery. So Vault City Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are originally from Edinburgh, the Scottish capital, and the company was founded back in 2018 by Johnny Horn, Adele Wilkie and Stephen Smith-Hay. But Johnny had been working at the Hanging Bat in the city. He was actually from Wales and was studying for his PhD in archaeology, but he said that he spent more time actually reading brewing books and things like this. But Stephen and Adele were regular customers at the bar, and just over time they all became friends. But Johnny, as I say, had been a keen home brewer, and Stephen was as well, and this was what really got them kind of talking about different beer styles and things like this. But they soon began planning a brewery together, and Adele contributed a lot of the ideas in the early stages, and so she decided to come into the venture with them. But Johnny was a great fan of Belgian lambics and sour beers, and this really rubbed off on Adele and Stephen over time, and they felt that there was a real gap in the market for a Scottish sour brewery, and so they decided that was where they were going to position themselves. But initially they didn't think about making money, and so they set up what they called a glorified home brewing kit as their brewery in Stephen and Adele's kitchen, and they began brewing weekly back in July of 2018. But over the following year, I should say, they began visiting different beer festivals and spreading the word about their beer, and they got some really, really positive feedback. At this point, they started brewing their beers at 71 Brewing up in Dundee, and they spent 16 months there before moving to their own new and purpose-built facility in Portobello, just out to the east of Edinburgh. But during the time in Dundee, Johnny left the company to found his own brewery called Holy Goat, and the main reason behind this was that Stephen and Adele wanted to kind of have a base beer and sort of play around with the base beer, if you like, whereas Johnny wanted to really experiment and do lots of different beers, and that's the kind of direction he's taken with Holy Goat. But they now have their wee vault bar near Haymarket in Edinburgh, and they very recently opened up another tap room in Portobello, which is called the Porty Vault, and I believe they do very good pizza. But as of August 2023, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced over 245 different kinds of beer, and as I've mentioned to you, they are best known for their different kinds of sour beers. But the name Vault City is taken from the Edinburgh or Southside Vaults, whatever you want to call them, and these were built into the Southside Bridge in Edinburgh, and they were home to like workshops and taverns and things like that. So they wanted an authentically Edinburgh name for their brewery, and I think it works pretty well actually. I think it's a really nice name. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Vault City Brewery for the moment. If you do want to try some really nice sour beers from these guys, I would recommend the Iron Brew Sour. That's really Scottish. Is it Sour Apple or Apple Sour it's called? That's also very nice. Anything that has lemonade in it from these guys in my mind is very good too, but I'm a huge fan of pink lemonade and stuff like that. But yeah, anything you try from Vault City and the kind of sweeter side of the sour things is very good. They have got some pastry sours as well, which it's a style that I'm not the biggest fan of, and they have got some really nice big stouts as well, and you'll see one of those reviewed on the channel again at some point quite soon. But yeah, as I say, if you want to learn more about Vault City, check out the brewery website, follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on to the Welsh side of things then, to Pollys Brewing. So Pollys Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Mold in Flintshire in the very northeast of Wales, pretty much right across the water from Liverpool from what I understand. But the brewery is run by three friends. This is Aaron Fellows, Sean Weldon and Scott Nixon, and the company was founded back in early 2018, originally with the name Loca Polly. So Sean had a brewery previously that was called Black Brook Brewing, and he ran this for about 18 months, but he realised he couldn't brew the beers he wanted for cask conditioning, and so he decided to dissolve Black Brook and completely rebrand as Loca Polly. The idea for the name Loca Polly came in two parts. Loca from his brother James's graphic design project, which was called Loca Island, and then Polly comes from the horse who used to live in the barn in which the brewery is now based. But Aaron had been running a restaurant and bar and became known as the beer guy, and he used to buy a lot of Sean's beer when he worked at a local wine and tapas bar. But he was approached later on by Sean to come in as the head of sales, and he deals with a lot of the business side of the brewery while Sean concentrates on the brewing. But Scott joined the brewery a little bit later on in August of 2018, having been a long-term friend, and he's also involved in the brewing side of things. But in early 2019 they received a cease and desist letter from Loca, who are a Swedish soft drinks company and part of Spendrup's Brewery, and so they decided to change the name of the company at this point just simply to Pollys Brewing Company. But at the moment they're focusing mainly on IPAs and paleos, but they have been producing other styles kind of sporadically too. I've seen more and more sours in recent times coming out from Pollys, and they have done a few big stouts and things like that as well from what I've seen. But yeah, generally speaking, a very solid all-round brewery, but it's definitely fair to say that they're best known for their different kinds of New England hazy type IPAs. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Pollys Brewing Company for the moment. Again, if you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on then and have a little look at this beer and see what it's all about. So the artwork on this one, as you can see, is a little bit different compared to what we've seen from Vault City in recent times. You can see the classic Vault City thing in the middle though, but yeah, it looks great. So that is the Vault City Brewing Company symbol there. As I said earlier, this one is called Even Cloudier Double Dry Hopped Hard Lemonade. 11% ABV, so it is a little bit of a monster, this one. Plain silver top on the can there, and it tells you a wee bit about the beer on the back there. I'll just let you see the two symbols of the breweries there. You've got the kind of Pollys teardrop and the Vault City kind of castle gate, as I would call it. But yeah, it says on the back here, even cloudier, double dry hopped hard lemonade. Imagine a blissful sip that transports you to a warm summer's day, an ultra refreshing sour beer to quench your thirst in the scorchful sun. That's exactly what our collaboration with Pollys delivers. In honour of our 5th birthday, we've taken the incredible taste of our original double dry hop cloudy lemonade and cranked it up a notch. Lemon juice and zest pair perfectly with our mixed fermentation base beer, while Citra, Motueka, Nelson Sauvin and Amarillo amplify the strong citrus and tropical fruit character in this hazy, dry hopped sour. So yeah, interesting hop mix in there. We know all of these ones quite well. Citra, of course, 14% alpha acid, American hop, big juicy mango notes normally, and quite a little bit of lemon lime. Motueka, 8% alpha acid, New Zealand hop, really juicy kind of limey notes from that. Nelson Sauvin, your classic New Zealand hop, 16% alpha acid, big kind of oily sort of gooseberry, white green grapey notes out of it. And then Amarillo, one of my favourite American hops actually, big oily zesty orange, about 12% alpha acid. But yeah, this one should be quite nice, as I say, big 11% Imperial sour, this one. This will be good. Let's get this guy out into the glass then and see how we get on. And a happy 5th anniversary, of course, to Vault City. Definitely becoming probably, yeah, one of the best known Scottish craft breweries these days. But let's see what this is all about. It's kind of a perfect combination, if you like, of both what Vault City and Pollys do when you think about it too. A nice big kind of Imperial hazy IPA, along with a big kind of sharp sour sort of thing from Vault City on one hand, or on the other hand I should say. But yeah, this beer looks absolutely lovely. We've maybe got about 3/4 of it out into the glass at the moment. So before the head disappears on this one, you can see that it's poured with about a 1/4 to a 1/3 finger of a frothy, I would say, perfect white head. It's got some medium-sized bubbles sticking along to the surface there, and it is just kind of fading away on the top. You can see there's a really nice kind of little bit of a fluffy character sitting on top of that, but it looks absolutely lovely, this one, I have to say. It certainly looks very much like a New England hazy IPA rather than anything else. But yeah, remember the colour of your beer depends on a few things. 1, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do, or adjuncts that you put into the beer, will affect its colour as well. But yeah, when it comes to modern sour beers like the stuff that Vault City do, the fruit that you put in is going to play quite a big role in determining the colour here. But yeah, this one contains, yeah, it says, I'm surprised it doesn't have a little bit of wheat in it, but it just says, yeah, it contains a bit of oat. So probably a lot of the haze you're getting in this beer is down to the fact that it's probably unfiltered, and also the presence of the oaty character in there. But yeah, 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But overall, it does look pretty damn nice actually. I like how this one goes about its business. Yeah, it certainly does look more like a New England hazy rather than an Imperial sour beer, I have to say. But yeah, I guess we'll just need to see what the aroma is going to have in store for us. This will be really quite interesting. So let's do this. Oh yeah, this smells absolutely lovely, I have to say. Yeah. Going to say this is one of these really unusual beers. I mean, when I was at Caledonian in Dunfermline buying this can, I think it was Joe from Vault City that was there. Lovely guy actually. He was talking a little bit about this one, and he said, you know, he told me that he really wanted to see my review of this. So hopefully he sees this one. But yeah, this is something pretty special, I have to say. This beer is just kind of ridiculous, but in a very good way, I have to say. But you can really smell, you've got the combination of that sort of lemony, sherbety quality that you'd expect of like a fresh American lemonade, but at the same time, you've got a little bit of that kind of creamy New England hazy sort of thing going on with this one. It's a really quirky aroma, this, but it's absolutely lovely. It's quite straightforward though at the same time, I have to say that. I would say that probably this beer is going to be one of the ones you're going to get more complexity in the flavour than you are in the aroma. But yeah, the backbone of this beer then, you can absolutely smell a little bit of that kind of New England hazy IPA sort of thing. So there's a bit of that sort of, there's a little bit of that kind of fresh white bready bread crust coming out of this one. It's almost like it's got flour on the edge of it, which is really nice. So yeah, a lovely kind of flour bread crust on this one. On top of that, you've got a kind of fresh, on top of the bread crust, yeah, you've got that kind of fresh, doughy, white bready character coming out of it, which is great. And then, yeah, you do get a little bit of that kind of creamy, oaty sort of thing as well. But yeah, very light and fresh and fluffy in its bready characters for sure. But of course, above all of that, you have got a little bit of like sweetness coming out of this one. And the sweetness in this beer is really interesting because it's like a really oily kind of sherbet, like a lemony sherbet oily thing. And it's got a wee bit of a kind of Werther's Original type note to it as well. So yes, and especially when you sugar the beer up, you start to get a little bit more of this kind of Werther's Original butter candy sort of thing, and you've got all the sort of lemon sherbet coming out of this beer too, which I think is really quite nice. It's a very, as I say, just a very, very quirky beer, this, and it gets a big thumbs up from me in that regard. To be honest, I don't know if there's really much else to say about the kind of malty side of things, but I think we will get a little bit more complexity out of that into the the actual flavour. But yeah, you certainly get a little bit of green component out of this one, and as I've mentioned on the channel many times before, when it comes to sour brewers, to sour beer brewers, there is often a debate about the necessity of using hops. You know, what they used to do back in the day with the Flanders Reds and the Huizes and Lambics and things like this is that they would add older hops to the beer so that the bitterness of the hop didn't detract from the actual sour side of things. So you can take that approach. You can also do things like dry hopping, as is the case with a number of brewers. But many kind of modern sour beer breweries, such as like Elm 11, Duck Pond, Fermenterna over in Sweden, a lot of them won't use hops in their beers, and I guess it just varies from brewery to brewery and beer to beer. And the other thing is, if you add fruit into beer as an adjunct anyway, as you often do with modern sour beers, it kind of suppresses a little bit of the green component. So yeah, this is why you have this kind of circular argument about whether or not you should use hops. But I think, for me at least, I think it kind of gives you a bit more of a complex flavour. So yeah, that's it. But yeah, Vault City and Holy Goat, and yeah, of course you've got Epochal as well, who you could kind of consider in the sort of sour funky category in Scotland. Yeah, they all use a little bit of these. They all like to use a little bit of hop in their beer. So yeah, but with this one, where I was going with this is that you certainly do get a little bit of green component out of this. There's quite a big oily floral sort of thing going on. Nice little bit of zesty grassy character as well. And of course this mixes in with the lemon sherbety character of the beer, which you would expect when it's called Cloudy Hard Lemonade. Just makes sense, eh? But yeah, you can smell some of the oily fruits from the hop coming out of this one. Certainly I get a wee bit of the juicier mango from the Citra, and I can get some of the oilier orange from the Amarillo too, and it's a bit more difficult to detect the kind of limey and kind of gooseberry-like notes from the Motueka and the Nelson Sauvin, but they are there. You do get them, but you have to really look for them. They're kind of like right in the middle of the nose at the top, and you have to take the aroma in quite deeply to get them. But yeah, a lot of limey characters, say, from the Motueka and the Citra, which is obviously quite in keeping with this beer. But yeah, the way the aroma goes together on this one, I think, is really quite nice, and it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, I do like that about this beer for sure. the fruity thing in there is really nice. And the more that you smell the beer, and the more that your nose kind of gets used to the kind of sharp, lemony, sherbety citrus in this one, the more that you're going to get the oily, juicy character out of the hops. Remember as well, when you use dry hopping, it's only going to contribute flavour and aroma. It's not going to give you bitterness in the beer, because when you get bitterness, it's usually when the hops are, and there's a little bit of heat in the kettle actually. That's when you're extracting a lot of the kind of bittering components from the hops. But yeah, beautiful smelling beer, this one. Very, very unique actually. So if you do get the chance to try this one, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma before you actually get stuck into this one. I'm pretty sure we had the double dry hopped pink lemonade from this one. Hard pink lemonade or something. Maybe about a year or two ago now, when they were still in bottles. But yeah, this is going to be interesting to try. So again, this is the Even Cloudier double dry hopped hard lemonade, and 11% Imperial sour, candy sour or something like that, whatever we want to call it, brewed at Vault City in Portobello in Edinburgh to celebrate their 5th anniversary, and brewed in collaboration with the wonderful Pollys from Flintshire in Wales. So let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål, cheers, yaki da. Yeah. That's pretty damn good, I have to say. Now, one thing I will warn you about with this beer is, if you're not used to Vault City beers, this maybe isn't the best place to start, because this one is this is a pretty powerful beer. You know, this it has a lot of sourness to it, and it's also just a big beast. So if you're not madly into sour beers, then this is maybe one that you should try once you are, to be quite honest with you. If you're just getting into stuff, go for like the Iron Brew or something like that. But I've had quite a few stronger sour beers from Vault City in recent times, and you can see how the brewery's maturing. They are getting more and more into this kind of higher ABV bracket. The Bucky Sour was lovely. You'll see a review of that on the channel at some point fairly soon, hopefully. Waiting for my can to arrive. But I tried it with Harry of Blue Nose Beer Reviews. I'll need to give you a link to that video. But yeah, Vault City are doing some really good Imperial stuff these days, I have to say that. And this is no exception. This is lovely. It really is. It really is just a combination of like a New England hazy IPA, which you get more in the aftertaste, and that big sharp lemonade sour beer that I've had from Vault City, and it's kind of more like that in the beginning. But yeah, it's a beautiful beer, this one. This is absolutely worth trying if you're into this sort of style. This could well be one of the best beers that I've had from Vault City actually, and I don't take that statement lightly. My favourite ones, the Strawberry Stars, even though it exploded, that was great. The Farm to Fermenter series was one that I always enjoyed too. Vault City are doing some really good stuff, and this is another quite unusual and almost kind of pioneering beer. But yeah, I like that. I do like this one. So let's just break the flavour down and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth then. This is going to take a little bit of time to do this though. A lot to get your head around with this beer. So, middle third of your palate. You can feel the backbone of the beer is this lovely, smooth, kind of white bready bread crust. Yeah. Lovely, just smooth, white bready bread crust coming out of this one. And it's almost like it does have, as I say, the backbone of this beer is quite New England hazy, like very, very smooth. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Overtones beers actually. Some of the triple IPAs have had the malty backbone, and this is like that, because Pollys do like to vary up a little bit. Sometimes it's a bit more wheaty, sometimes it's a bit more oaty, sometimes it's a bit more barley malt. But anyway, that's by the by. Yeah, the backbone of this beer, you've got that lovely kind of fresh white bready bread crust on the backbone there. Further forward on that middle third of your palate, you've got a little touch of a smooth kind of woody sort of thing to this one. And then on top of that, you get the fluffier white bread, and you can feel that there. You can feel that nice fluffy and slightly sweet white bready character in the middle of your palate, which is, as I say, lovely. So, on top of that, you have a lovely kind of, you can feel the oaty character coming out of this beer. You've got that lovely smooth oaty character just sitting on top of everything else. So, yeah, the way the beer goes together in that particular regard is really quite nice. So for me, the oaty character in this one is really interesting, because above that, that's when you get the kind of the lemony sherbet sort of thing. It really is very much like a, I don't know what the word is, it has the, if you taste like a lambic beer, I've had a few lemon lambic beers, is it called, do they call it macerating? When you do that, when you take the kind of lemon and oranges and stuff and you kind of macerate them, and they just, probably using the wrong word there, but you just make them like sour as fuck basically. You can feel that sort of really high, punchy, lemon sherbety sort of thing. You can really feel that oily sourness just sitting on top of the smooth oaty character in this one. But the further you go into the aftertaste with that, you do start to get a little bit of like a Werther's Original butter candy type sweetness out of this one. And when the beer is 11%, that kind of makes sense. You know, you are always going to get a little bit of a sweetness from the alcohol characters in this one. So yeah, the sweeter side of the beer that you get into the aftertaste for this one is also really quite nice. But yeah, to be honest, I would say that covers the middle third of your palate. It's, as I've often said with sour beers, you know, quite often they can be like really straightforward, and it just works. You know, it just works. That's one of the things with a number of the Vault City beers, is they are just they are quite straightforward, but they're just really, really nice to drink. The same with Elm 11, Fermenterna, Duck Pond, all these Swedish breweries that I'm very familiar with, and this is no exception to that. But I think we've covered the middle third of the palate, as I've said. So let's move on and have a little look at the back third of your palate then. Now, as I've often said, the back third of the palate will give you similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, just at different intensities. But do remember that general trend with your palate, that sweeter flavours will come out further forward, and more dry and bitter flavours will come out further back. So yeah, for me, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you start to get a nice little bit of bready build up in there. There's almost like a little bit of a kind of sweeter brown bready character underneath, and a softer white bread just sitting on top of that. And then the back third of your palate, you can feel the bread crust is there and a little bit drier. Yeah, the drier bread crust is there, and that's nice. It's got a little bit of a floury character to it, which is great. You know, fresh flour straight out of the bakery sort of thing. There's a little bit of woodiness just on top of that. Then there's a little bit of a sweeter wholemeal brown bready sort of thing, and above that you do have you've got a nice little bit of more dense white bread character coming out of this one, which I do really quite like. And then above all of that, you have the kind of, you can feel the white bready layer there is just a bit lighter and more airy, and above all of that there's a little bit of the oatiness creeping on top there, and it's quite a dry oatiness on that back third of your palate too. So yeah, bread crust, bit of wood almost, then a sweeter brown bready layer there, a more light and airy white bread, and then some of the dry oatiness just creeping in on top of that. And as I say, it goes together really, really nicely. So on top of all of that, you're getting on top of all of that, you're getting a nice little bit of a more dense, yeah, you're getting a little bit of a more dense kind of yeasty character out of this one. The yeasty character in this beer is quite interesting because it has that kind of sour lemony sherbet sort of thing around it. And you have, pardon me, so you get this kind of dense, sweet, brown bready character in the middle. It's got a little bit of woodiness and a little bit of cracker to it, but then yeah, it has that sour sort of, it has that kind of sour, lemony sherbet, kind of maceration thing around it. It's really interesting actually, but definitely the back third of your palate you can feel the flavour is taller, then as you come further forward into the middle third of your palate it just kind of condenses down and squashes together. So yeah, interesting stuff. So on the hoppy side of things then, you do definitely have a green component to this one, but you can feel the kind of the lemon adjunct in this one is kind of suppressing part of the green component. So it feels quite smooth but quite zesty at the same time. So in the back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, there's a little touch of herbal character, and as you push toward the kind of front corners of your palate, you get a nice little bit of a kind of floral aromaticity coming out of this one, which I think is really interesting. So yeah, as I say, just a nice little bit of that floral aromaticity coming out of this beer, and it works, like I said, very, very well. So for me, yeah, a little bit of earthiness, a little bit of herbal character, but then yeah, very quickly a kind of bigger floral aromatic note to this one, and you can just feel the lemony character just pushing away at that. But round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy. Yeah, definitely a little bit lighter and more grassy around the front curve of the tongue, but then yeah, quite oily as well. So yeah, goes together really nicely. It does go together very, very well. So yeah, the lemony notes just really linger in this one. I love it. I love that really strong, powerful lemonade thing coming out of this beer. Yeah, if you like cocktails and you like American lemonades, you probably are going to enjoy this one. But yeah, I think we've said everything we need to about the green component of this one. But yeah, the oily lemony character really is pushing back against that, but it's great. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of a kind of bready build up in there, sort of brown bready character as well. So yeah, a little bit of brown bread in the base, a white bread on top of that, and then yeah, the base of that front third of your palate, you can feel it's a little bit more, as I say, you've got a little bit of a more kind of smooth, you've almost got like a kind of woody character in the base there now. Then you get a little bit of bread crust, and then the smooth white bread and a little bit of the oat, and then the oily fruits from the hops are just coming out in that nice oily bubble behind, just on that front third of your palate there. So let's have a wee look at that and try and focus on it. But like I say, the resonance of that kind of lemony flavour in this beer is very powerful. So yeah, as I say, the nice kind of mango-y, you do get a little touch of grapefruit at the back of that front third of your palate, I will say that. And as you move further forward, you get this really ripe, juicy sort of mango-y quality, and as you reach the kind of front, as you reach the half, the front half of that, as you reach the front half of that of your palate, so I'd say yeah, you do start to get, you can feel a little bit of the kind of Nelson Sauvin, the oily kind of gooseberry type thing underneath. Then on top of that, you've got a little bit of an oily kind of, yeah, you've got a little bit of a kind of oily orangey character there, and then just behind the very front tip of your tongue, you start to get the juicy lime from the Motueka. So yeah, Nelson Sauvin underneath, oily kind of Amarillo orange on top, and then the juicy lime at the front tip of your tongue. from the Motueka, but the Citra is of course going to contribute to that as well, because it does have its own lemony-limey components. But yeah, the grapefruit and the juicy mango behind that are contributing to that. But you can really feel the sheer impact of the kind of macerated lemons in this one. Yeah, really is powerful. So, I mean, as I've often said, for me, a good sour beer is one that can come in and have a good impact and then just mellow out really nicely. And this beer does that, but because of the nature of it and the fact that it's lemon based, it really resonates in the palate. So yeah, you have to be prepared for that with this one. But it's absolutely great. So, for me, behind the front tip of your tongue, you do get that punch. You do start to get that nice little punch from the, you get that little bit of punch just from the sharper lemons coming in, which is great. And then above that, in front of that, you can feel the sharper lemons there, and it just mellows out over the top of that middle third of your palate, and then everything just kind of lingers there on the edges of the palate too. It is very, very nice in that particular regard. But yeah, as I say, it gets a big, big thumbs up from me. I think this is a really lovely beer from that particular perspective. Yeah, really good stuff. I do really like this one. So yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the flavour of the beer. Let's round off then with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So for me, the beer is kind of bottom end of full bodied. The carbonation is very smooth. It's quite an oily and slightly slick thing, but it has that element of creaminess to it as well. Like I said, it is very much like a combination of a Vault City Sour and a Pollys New England IPA. The mouthfeel is, yeah, like 50% New England IPA, 50% Vault City Sour, but maybe 60-40 is fair, because the sour things do really kind of just linger there in the flavour of this beer, and I like that for sure. So yeah, the way that goes together is really quite nice. For me, I think in terms of IBU count with this beer, I think there is a wee bit of bitterness to this one. Maybe about 20-ish IBUs or something like that. And some of the bitterness is coming from the kind of sourness of the lemons too. Because lemon is quite an inherently bitter fruit for sure. So there is a wee bit of bitterness there. Probably calculated IBUs in this beer is 0, but there is still a little bit of a bitterness there. And you get some of it, it feels a bit floral, but it also feels like it's from the kind of citrusy character of the lemons. The malt base, as we said, has a little bit of dryness underneath, a lovely little bit of smoothness in the middle, and a wee bit of sweetness kind of sitting on top of it, which is great. And yeah, again, I really do like how all of that just pieces together. On the sort of, I would say on the malty side of things, it really is just very smooth, but the sour side of the beer is quite powerful in this one, but at the same time it really mellows out nicely and your palate just gets used to it. You've got that lovely big oily hoppy character in this one as well, from the fruity hoppy character. So yeah, mainly leaning toward that citrusy side of things, but you do get a wee touch of tropical fruit in behind it too. But as I said, beautiful, beautiful beer this one, and it gets a big thumbs up from me. So yeah, I think I can say I'm quite happy with this one, and it does, as I say, get a big thumbs up from me. So we can leave it at that for this. This was the Even Cloudier Double Dry Hopped Hard Lemonade collaboration beer at 11% ABV. I think we have to call this one an Imperial Sour actually, from Vault City Brewing in Edinburgh. So we can leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Vault City in the comments section below, and from Pollys of course as well. We will be returning to both of these breweries at some point in the very near future, I'm sure. But this one was really damn good actually. If you enjoy American lemonade, you will enjoy this one, and that's one of the main reasons why I liked it too. So big shout out to Joe of Vault City, and also to Colin of Caledonian Craft Beer Merchant in Dunfermline. Lovely guys, and yeah, always cool to try new beers from Vault City and Pollys. Thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, check out the brewery's social media, and the other links down there below, and I'll see you guys soon. Slàinte, skål, and cheers.